The NBA standoff with China continues as Commissioner Adam Silver heads to Shanghai to address the controversy. China canceled the NBA Cares event involving the Los Angeles Lakers just hours before it was scheduled to begin, after a recent tweet by Houston Rockets general manager Daryl Morey set off a political storm. Let's turn to the panel on this one. It happened, Friday, and now it just seems we keep getting headline after headline, more companies getting involved. This does not seem to be stopping by any stretch of the imagination. And I thought it was interesting talking to Tom, because he was sort of bringing these two episodes together. Is this part of the trade war?
No, I don't think it's part of the discussions when both sides meet in Washington. But there's no question, tensions, there are these sort of tensions, the tempers that are flared. And remember, this all started with Hong Kong. So it's not necessarily tied directly to the U.S. This is essentially, the pushback has come from the Chinese saying, look, don't interfere with our domestic, what Chinese like to call the internal affairs, as they see the Hong Kong protests.
I'm going to differ a little bit, and I think it is becoming part of the trade discussion, or it certainly will. You think of the NBA and you're like, oh, it's a basketball league. It's also a company, and it's a huge American company in China. Billions of dollars, I believe, maybe $4 billion worth of revenues from China from the NBA. So other companies that have huge Chinese revenues are also going to become wondering, like, what happens to us when we make some statement that is controversial.
But they have been, I think the NBA has gotten so much attention because it's such a big league. But when you think about what's been happening in China, this isn't anything new. Marriott has had to deal with this, Delta has had to deal with this. There are a long list of companies that have had to respond when they said the wrong thing that was not appropriate as the Chinese government saw it. On the mainland.
However, those instances may be dealing with a drop-down menu about Taiwan or Hong Kong, not just all being under China. They came at different times. And I feel, certainly, and a lot of people we're talking to, against the backdrop of what's happening with trade, and also because the protests are ongoing in Hong Kong, that it is all getting conflated. So if we have just a deal on agriculture, it doesn't get to the heart of the issue, which are these really difficult problems to solve. How do you get a market economy to work with basically an economy where it's all state run? And it makes it seem so much more complicated, I think, this overlay onto trade discussions.
Yeah, I think it's important, though, to separate what's happening with the NBA and some of these companies versus trade. And also, we should note that China has always had, obviously, the Communist Party in place, but this is Xi Jinping tightening the strings. When you think back to how things were in the previous leadership, Hu Jintao, I would argue that it would not have gone to this extent. But, of course, Hong Kong is a very, very sensitive issue, and, I do wonder at what point U.S. companies decide that the risk simply isn't worth it. Money speaks volumes, no question about it, but I think it does point to the increasing difficulty of having to navigate these political landmines, if you will, for companies that are doing business in China.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.